So with all this in mind, is it worth it to own a Dodge Viper? In my opinion, yes. A lot of these things that I've complained about, they're frustrating and they're irritating, but that's just people being inconsiderate and dumb in general. But I didn't buy this car for other people. I bought this car for myself. Like I said, this is my dream car. I like the way this car looks. I like the way this car drives. This was a purchase strictly for my own enjoyment, and whatever anyone else thinks, I really don't care, to be honest. As I discussed in the car shopping series, there's no other car that I drove that gave that level of driving experience, that level of enjoyment, and that level of fun, but especially all at once in the same package. This is, for me, the ultimate driver's car. And then having the car look that good and also be my lifelong dream car, it was like a done deal. Furthermore, like I've repeatedly said, I had a really bad workplace head and neck injury, and that really ruined my balance, my mobility, really ruined my range of motion, especially with my neck. So I used to ride my motorcycle a lot. I used to do a lot of track riding on my motorcycle. The motorcycle was always kind of the most involved driving experience because the speed and the capabilities of the motorcycle are so dependent on your capabilities as a vehicle operator. And since the injury, not only can I not do the track riding, I also just can't do as much of the street riding. My balance is just not there. I just don't have as much of that fine-tuned control that you need on a motorcycle, both with the inputs, the throttle, brake, and clutch, but also body positioning and stuff like that. But I also lost that range of motion in my neck, so I can't keep my head on a swivel anymore to make sure no one's going to crash into me, and that's really impacted my safety on the motorcycle. But on top of those other factors, now I have really bad chronic migraines, and the motorcycle, being more physical to ride it, being loud, being more involved, can really elevate those migraines. So going for a really long ride can take me out for a day or two. And what I missed most about that was the sense of freedom and the sense of escape, that when you went out for a ride, you were so involved with the operation of the vehicle that your day-to-day life could kind of dissolve into the background, and it gave you this escape and this enjoyment of knowing that you were the one in control and knowing that everything that happened on that ride was dependent on your ability, dependent on your skill. So it forces you to pay attention to the ride that's happening, what's going on at the moment, and nothing else. And unfortunately, I lost that when I had the head injury. And for me, I lost all of that when I had the head injury, and I lost the ability to do those things. And it's something that I missed a lot. And the Viper for me is not only the symbolic representation of me being able to achieve my dreams despite these setbacks, but it's also the first and only car I've ever driven where I get that same sense of involvement and that same sense of driver experience and that same sense of being in the now that I had on the motorcycle that nothing else has replicated. Ugh. All right. It's one thing to have like written a script and know that I was going to have to talk about this, but actually saying this out loud is a lot more emotional than I expected it would be. So this might take me a few takes. But this is the first and the only car I've ever driven that almost has that same sense of freedom and that same sense of experience that I'd really been missing. And that's why I knew I had to buy this car when I test drove it, is that it's the only car I've ever driven that makes you focus on the now and makes you forget about these other things in your life, even if it is just for a brief fleeting moment. And to me, at least, that's what makes it the ultimate driving car. That's what makes it the ultimate driving experience. And if that's what you're looking for, even if you don't like the flashiness, even if you don't want the negative connotations of owning something like this, there's still no replacement, and that's what it comes down to. So for me, to have that experience back and to be able to have something in my life that maybe isn't exactly the same, but gives me most of the same sensation, far outweighs any of the negatives that I talked about in this video. And that's why I knew, especially after driving this car, that I was going to make it work and that I had to make it work. And that's why for me, I was willing to sacrifice more of my budget and more of these long-term costs to make this car work within my means, because there's a very real chance at this point that my health will never progress to a point that I'll be able to experience this in any other way otherwise. Oh, God. Life is short and you never know when it's going to change in an instant, so if you have the chance to buy something like this, to experience something like this, go for it, make it work, and if you're anything like me, you probably won't regret it. And now this turned into way more of an emotional video than I expected it to, so I'm going to close this one out. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.